Yeah, 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 yeah. This the Brad and Memory Show. Yeah, this the Brad and Memory Show. Yeah, this the Brad and Memory Show. Yeah, this the Brad and Memory Show. In the field with my dogs, like the Sixers, we gon' ball. Wake up early in the morning, tune in anytime at all. All time, all season, don't believe in off seasons. Watch the Phillies, watch the Flyers, and the Eagles on the weekends, yeah. This is not your ordinary radio show. Ain't just talking sports, we be talking about the culture. All across the globe, anything you wanna cover. This is for the fans, no room for our front runners. This the Brad and Memory Show. Yeah, 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 yeah. You know the vibes.
Yes, sir. You know the vibes. Brad Memory Show. Marcus Brown, Justin Emery.
Yo.
It's really, really just sad times in Philadelphia sports right now.
It's the thing is not that long ago we were on the mountaintop.
Last on, we were very, very happy with how things are gone. The Phillies were in the World Series. The Sixers were, getting off to a good start. The Eagles were off to a good start, and things were all well, all good. And things have come crashing down mightily. We'll get into the Phillies a little bit later, but there was a ray of sunshine when it comes to Sixers. A couple rays of sunshine. One, it was so awesome last week and such a needed source of relief to go back to 2001 and watch Game 7 against the Raptors and Game 1 against the Lakers and the documentary that they ran on that team. To this day, still, even with the Eagles winning the Super Bowl, the Phillies winning the World Series, that is my favorite team of all time in the city, hands down, bar none. I will never
across any sport
that season, across any sport. My favorite team, because like I go back to that time in my life. My only regret was the fact that I wasn't living in Maryland at the time. I wasn't here to experience the hysteria for most of that year. But the Sixers were so bad in the 90s.
Do you remember where you were when they won Game 1?
Yeah, yep. I was in Maryland. Yeah.
No. Like I'm saying, like
yeah, I was at my uncle's house. I watched the game at my uncle's house in Maryland. Yeah. So going back to that time period, like I was too young to really to enjoy '83, and the only sign of winning I had all '90s was the '93 Phillies, which is probably my second favorite team of all time, which is funny because neither one won championships. But anyway, it was just dark. It was dark. Draft Iverson, things start turning around. Hire Larry Brown '98, and that was really the analogy I gave the hire in Larry Brown '98 was like JJ Redick committing to come here in 2017. It was the first time in a really long time someone chose us that had any kind of profile whatsoever. So it was a huge deal when Larry Brown signed coach here, because we knew, like, he coached the Pacers, did an incredible job with them. I mean, so you knew he could coach. Obviously, he has that crazy pedigree of being connected to James Naismith, for God's sakes. James Naismith to Dean Smith. Dean Smith is his mentor, the legendary Dean Smith of North Carolina. The guy can coach. So you have the glimmer of hope. Then you start to figure out, okay, how can we build around this unique superstar, which is Allen Iverson, listed at 6 foot, but really 5'11", 5'10", 5'11". How you build around him, start putting the pieces in. You trade for Eric Snow, Ratliff, you get Tyrone Hill, you trade for George Lynch, and the pieces start to just form. Aaron McKee, everyone starts to kind of just form around him. The style basically is this: listen, we're going to let AI get 30 to 35 shots a game, and we're going to play incredible defense, get a lot of turnovers, get a lot of fast breaks. That's the formula. All the turmoil leading into that season where Iverson could be traded. He almost is traded. It wasn't for Matt Geiger, not waiving his no trade clause. He would have been traded to the Pistons. So going into that season, it was, you had lost to the Pacers 2 years in a row. They dominated you really both seasons. get a second round of the playoffs, and they kind of were in a very similar situation kind of with the process where you did all these things to get to to fix the team. However, you're still kind of in the same place you were. You can't get out of the second round of the playoffs. So there wasn't really crazy high hopes for that year. The team you knew the team would be a playoff team because they've been a playoff team the past 2 years, but the idea they would do what they did was never part of the possibility. And it was just so much fun. First of all, they get off to a 10-0 start, which is, I think first time in franchise history got 10-0 start. They were 41-14 at the All-Star break. They cruised to the All-Star break. The Theo Ratliff trade is still something that is a controversial topic. Mutombo comes in, and Larry Brown fell in love with Mutombo with the All-Star game and really wanted to get him in here. Theo Ratliff gets hurt, breaks his wrist. And he really was never the same player after that broken wrist. So I guess they did the right thing. It was around. I'll tell you what. I remember the conversation around there because they were 41-14 the All-Star break. They were starting Nazr Mohammed for Theo Ratliff, and they won like 3 or 4 games doing that. And the talk was, well, do we make a trade? Is Ratliff going to be ready for the playoffs? What do we do? And then Mutombo trade happens, and Mutombo was, at that time, a top center. He was a defensive juggernaut. And you were thinking, looking long term, what do we do with Shaq? What do we do with Shaq? So I get it, but they finished the regular season, I think, 15-14. They struggled on the stretch with Mutombo, trying to figure out what this now looks like. Because the style they played without Mutombo was not the same style they played with Mutombo. They kind of had to figure out how to make that work. Mutombo is a different type of center. Theo Ratliff really, his comp today would be like a Clint Capella. A guy that could block shots, he rebounds, but he also runs the floor really well, very athletic, get out on the break, get him the alley-oops. That's not Mutombo. Mutombo is more of a plotting center. If you're going to get Mutombo involved in your offense, it's going to have to be in the half court. Not really going to get a lot of fast break buckets out of him. Great one-on-one defender, obviously. Amazing, one of the greatest rim protectors of all time. But he just doesn't do the same things Theo Ratliff does. So them figuring it out was a really, really difficult thing. But the ride, I mean, I like I said, I regret the fact that I wasn't here for that because I've never seen a city. I'm gonna phrase that. I can't speak for other cities. I've never seen this city rally around a team the way they rally around that 2000-2001 Sixers team. Like, I've never seen it in my life. The amount of excitement, hysteria around a team. This team was like, that's why to me, Allen Iverson is, I think, light years the most beloved Philadelphia athlete of all time. I don't even think it's debate. I don't think it's close. Like, as much as I love Brian Dawkins, he's like, they're not even in the same sentence, the same class. And Brian Dawkins, we know how people feel about him, but Allen Iverson is just, the emotion he brought out of people was just something I've never seen before. And we were watching, so I'm going to kind of go back and forth here. So the documentary was on, that was cool. But the game one, the Lakers game, I had Amber watch that with me. And we're both sitting here, and I was just like, damn, I missed Allen Iverson. And one of the things, this was just such bad timing for what we watched Mother's Day to watching that game again, because Allen Iverson, if people remember, got off to a really bad start in that game. He was like 1 for 7. He turned the ball over a couple times, but he never wavered. Like, he was unrelenting. Listen, we're going to figure this out. They get down 18-5 to start that game. People remember, they were down 18-5, 5 minutes into that game. And because of his demeanor, because of that team knowing he's a warrior and looking at him knowing that, hey, AI is not out of this, so we're not out of this. You take on, as we talk about with Embiid, you take on the demeanor of your leader, your best player. And AI's demeanor was a warrior. He's a warrior. He was battling. He had the hip, he had the shoulder, he had the knee problems at the time. Like, he was a beaten up mess. The rest of the whole team was. Eric Snow had a broken ankle. Aaron McKee had a sprained shoulder. George Lund had a broken foot. He didn't play like game 3 of that series, but he wasn't the same person. I think Dikembe Mutombo had a broken finger. They were all messed up. But that was the warrior spirit of Allen Iverson. And you saw that throughout that game, is that this kid did not give an F. Like, he didn't care.
He did not.
I don't care you're Kobe. I don't care you're Shaq. I don't care that you guys have won every game in the playoffs. I don't care that Derek Fisher shot 15 for 20 from 3. We're going to get this done. And I am still prepared to die on, if anyone cares. I am still prepared to die on the hill. If that team was healthy, they beat that Lakers team. I firmly believe in my heart of hearts, if they were healthy, they just had nothing left. They had given everything, their bodies, their minds, their soul. They had nothing left to give. After that Game 3 Robert Horry dagger, they had nothing left. That was the end. And anyway, it was just so cool to have that, the timing of it for us, not for the Sixers, but for us, the time was great because we got to reminisce about an all-time great memory in our city. Pat Croce climbing the bridge and getting the tattoo, and all the cool things that surrounded the lore of that team. The Allen Iverson Larry Brown drama that is one of the biggest sports rivalries of two guys ever. It was cool hearing in the documentary them talk more in depth about that legendary meeting that took place before practice, and how all the players ran the door to listen to figure what was going on. And the first 2 minutes was F you, no F you, no F you, no F you. And Pat Croce is just literally mediating this whole thing and doing the whole thing. As a good mediator does, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to have the person put themselves in the other person's shoes. So he's doing that. It actually ends up, being a great productive meeting, and they figured it out. Now, those of you who follow the team know that it didn't last, because the reason why Larry Brown left in 2003 was because he was just tired of dealing with Allen Iverson and everything that surrounded him. Allen Iverson, legendary, was late for a playoff game in 2003 against the Pistons, the Game 6. He showed up like a half hour before the game, and that was kind of last straw. And also, I think Larry Brown saw the Pistons being exactly what he had here, but just a better version of that. So he knew that Sixers team was kind of done. So he jumped on the Pistons bandwagon, and guess what? What did they do the following year? They go beat the Lakers in 2004 to get Larry Brown's first ring. But yeah, it was really cool watching that and having those memories and reminiscing about that squad, because there's just such a talented squad, and it was a lot of fun to watch that documentary and those games.
Yeah, real quick, my favorite team season ever is probably either the 09 or the 11 Phillies.
Okay.
The 4 aces or the loss to the Yankees. Only because, admittedly, I grew up a Phillies fan. Like we talked before, we both grew up big baseball fans.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But my whole life, the Phillies had sucked prior to that.
Right. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I didn't even understand. Like, I was alive in '93, but I was too young. I don't remember it.
Right.
But after that, my whole life they've sucked. So but I didn't even know the Phillies were allowed to make the playoffs before then.
Right. So,
but it's probably one of those teams, either the 09 or the.
Both great picks. I mean, that whole run of Phillies baseball from I'm going to say 2006, because that was 2006. Actually, really 2005 is when they started flirting with the playoffs. So 2005 to 2011 was a really fun time when it comes to baseball. We've talked about Citizens Bank Park and all the cool things that was happening down there. But yeah, for me, it was that Sixers team, and it was really cool to show you how much this team cared. Think about this: Philadelphia being Philadelphia and not being gracious losers. Which, I mean, you shouldn't really be a gracious loser anyway. But Philadelphia, we know we're usually pretty hard on our teams at the end. I thought it was really cool at the end of Game 5, when the game was in doubt, the Lakers going to be champions, like a minute left, and the game's over. Lakers going to win the game. They're going to win the series. Everyone stood up on their feet, and "Let's go Sixers" for the last minute of that game rang through the Wells Fargo Center. Like, it was an emotional moment. Like, it was really cool because it's not something that we typically do.
That's when they did 2-3-2, right? That's when they did 2-3-2.
Yes, that was 2-3-2. Yep. Because it was because you felt good after games 1 and 2 in LA. You felt good because They won game 1, and they should have won game 2. They missed a lot of free throws down the stretch. AI misses 2 huge free throws at the end of that game. Dikembe missed a couple. They almost won that game too. They lose by 9, but the Lakers struggled to beat them in game 2. And you're like, okay, we're going back to at the time the FU Center. We're going back home. We should be okay. But again, they just ran. After game 3, Robert Horry hits that huge dagger 3 with like a minute to go in the third game 3, and they had nothing left. That was it. They made some runs in game 4 and again in game 5, but they just had nothing left. But anyway, that was really cool at last minute, the Let's Go Sixers chance, because that team deserved that. They didn't deserve to get booted off the court because they gave you everything. Everything they had, they gave it. And the run itself, like that Raptor series, I implore anybody who can go back and watch some of those games. I mean, Vince Carter and Allen Iverson going back and forth. Vince gets a 50 spot. AI gets a 50 spot. Vince get a 50 spot. It was just incredible. The Bucks series, which was weird. In the documentary, it was weird they didn't cover that series. That series was a really good series. That was the Sam Cassell, Glenn Big Dog Robinson, Ray Allen, Milwaukee Bucks. And there was a lot of controversy in that series. George Karl basically came out and said that the series was rigged. Then you had the Scott Williams flagrant foul on Allen Iverson, where he punches him in his chest, pretty much. You had the Allen Iverson getting elbowed in his face and swallowing blood for the last minute of that game just to not get taken out of the game. You had the AI miss. He misses a game because his hip is so damaged. He missed the game, and the team fights and almost ends up winning the game. They end up winning the next game when AI comes back. That series also goes to a game 7. It was a really good series. Weird they didn't cover that. And especially to the Allen Iverson, Ray Allen story, because they have been rivals going all the way back to Georgetown and Connecticut. They had a legendary game in '96 in the Big East tournament where they went back and forth. Ray Allen hits the buzzer beater to win the Big East tournament for UConn. So yeah, it was weird they didn't cover that series. Anyway, but it was really cool. And then you fast forward to today, and you go back to Joel Embiid, and you really just hope that he was watching this stuff, and because sometimes you got to learn by watching, and I'm a firm believer that some things are born, but I think you can teach some things too, and this would have been a great teachable moment for him to see what a warrior looks like. Because Allen Iverson was a warrior. He was a warrior. No, he didn't like to practice. No, he didn't have the greatest conditioning habits. Drink Coronas and eating mozzarella sticks at TGI Fridays a half an hour before the game isn't ideal. However, the guy, when he got between the lines, was an absolute warrior and left everything out on that court and gave you every ounce of everything. And that's all we're looking for from our athletes, is to just give us everything. And you look at that performance in Game 7 in the Mother's Day Massacre, and you feel like they didn't. And that's the thing that's disheartening for Philadelphia fans. That's why this summer Joel Embiid's being criticized more than he's ever been criticized his entire career. It also doesn't help the fact that we're looking at Nikola Jokic in the NBA Finals. And how good he looks, and how wrong we defended Joel Embiid so much and so long for saying that we thought he was just as good, if not better, than Nikola Jokic. And no, that's just not the case, and that hurts. So yeah, I don't know. For me, I look at this as it was nice having that moment last week with the reminiscing, because it kind of rejuvenated, again, a little bit of that love for Sixers basketball, because things were so bad. It was like, okay, I remember how much I really do love this team. The Nick Nurse hire, I think is an excellent hire. I think you got the best candidate on the board. If we're to be honest, and I'll ask you your thoughts on Nick Nurse in a second, but if we're gonna be honest about Nick Nurse, I'm sorry, if we're gonna be honest about the Sixers and their pitfalls with Doc Rivers, it was the in-game management, in-game adjustments. They probably, if you think about it, over the past 5 years, And I'll say that. I'll say 3 years just to put Doc in it. Past 3 years, they're really like a couple of possessions from being in the East Conference Finals. You know, the Atlanta Hawks series, you're up 25, you blow that lead. Game 7 down the stretch, there are a couple possessions in there. And then, you know, this year, you know, game 6, you're up 83-81 with 4 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. It's a couple possessions here and there that gets you these victories. And that's what Nick Nurse is so great at, is that in-game tactician stuff that Doc Rivers is not. Doc Rivers comes into the game with a plan, but that's just the plan there. There's no in-game adjustments with Doc Rivers at all. He's not good at that. That's not what he does. And the offense also, and I think the malcontent with James Harden is that the Sixers offense was just way too predictable down the stretch. You knew where Joel Embiid was going to be. You knew where he wanted to be. And once he didn't get to those spots, you saw what happened. They couldn't do anything. They couldn't figure out. Once he couldn't get to the nail, once they took that away from him, the offense was done. They didn't know what to do at that point. There was no other real direction of how, well, what they're supposed to do. And I think Nurse will help that. I think there'll also be a better defensive team under Nick Nurse because he cares way more about defense than Doc Rivers does. So I think it's a really great hire, and we'll just have to see where the rest of the pieces end up.
Yeah, it's going back real quick to final thoughts on the documentary. That team is solely responsible for the reason why I like basketball as much as I do.
I think a lot of people probably will say that.
Well, that was the summer between 6th and 7th grade. So how old are you guys?
That's awesome. I would have loved being 12.
Yeah, what's that, 12, 13 years old?
Yeah,
like that?
That's 12.
That's 12.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that was the summer. So I was at, like, the games would come on at what, 8:30, 9 o'clock, something like that. And so I would be out, you know, with my friends all night. Streetlights come on, run home, put the Sixers game on. I'll never forget watching game 1 in the living room of my house. They won. They cut to the news, Channel 6. And Marcus, I know you'll remember this name. I'm pretty sure it was Gary Papa was covering the Sixers.
Papa? R.I.P.
Sure,
Gary Papa.
I'm pretty sure he was doing.
Look at you with the Gary Papa. Get me fired up on a Monday.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was doing like the
smile. Gary Papa.
Like the 11 o'clock news on Channel 6.
Yeah, he was.
Sure he was doing the sports for that.
Yep. It was Gary Papa and Scott Andrews.
And he comes out, he's just stunned. He doesn't even know what to say. He's just like, he goes, we're just going to cut to, whatever reporter was, out in the field.
Yeah.
They cut to the reporter. He's doing his live report. In the background behind him, people are streaking down Broad Street. I'll never forget that. And Gary Papa is just like,
Gary Papa is a great name by you.
Yeah,
that's like for me. It's the sports. It's Gary Papa, Yuki Washington, love me some Yuki, Lou Tilly.
Lou Tilly.
Yeah. That was a great name, right? R.I.P. Gary Papa.
Yeah, he was.
So yeah, that's great.
When it was him and Jim Gardner, you were covered. You were set. You could settle in for the next half hour. You were covered.
I was a psycho, so I knew. So what I did was, I memorized all the times when the sports would come on at different channels. I wanted to catch everyone. I knew Channel 6 was 11:16. Channel 10 was 11:21, and 3 was 11:24. So sometimes I would be staggered, but like I wanted to see all 3 of them. And then Sports Final on Channel 10 Sunday nights with Eskin. That was really the first. Honestly, that was my first time ever seeing Stephen A. Smith. He used to come on Sports Final, and him and Eskin would debate a little bit, which was interesting.
Did I ever tell you at the time I saw Deuces Rogers at Acme?
No.
Yeah, I'm checking out at Acme, and I turn around, and Deuces is behind me. Got what looked like arguably every variety of barbecue sauce that store had.
I'll allow it.
And I was just like, you know how you look at somebody and you're like, I know you. I know you.
Right.
I did that to him. I was like, I know you. He's like, and my aunt was with me, and she's like, oh yeah, it's Deuces Rogers from Channel 6 that he's at.
Yeah, Deuces at Channel 6. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he was like, yeah. He's like, I'm getting ready to head down to the NovaCare complex, and I was like, I don't know what you're doing with all this at the NovaCare complex, but
maybe he gets ready to cook some barbecue for the team. Jordan Davis probably eats a lot of barbecue.
No. We're talking. This is like McNabb era.
Oh, okay.
This was.
Oh, so you're talking about young Deuces?
Yes. Yeah. This was.
Well, Hollis Thomas played with some barbecue too.
Yeah. This was probably.
Simon.
This is probably Deuces new on the beat.
Okay.
You're stuck. Getting the sauce.
Gotcha. So what are your thoughts on Nick Nurse?
I mean, I don't love it. I don't hate it. I can't believe Monty Williams got the deal he got.
It was aggressive.
We had talked about how we didn't want Sam Cassell because it's too close to Doc Rivers. However, did you see he made a lateral move to Boston?
Yeah, interesting.
I'm not gonna necessarily be all worried that Sam Cassell isn't with the team anymore, but I think it speaks a little bit about the state of affairs of the front office when he's willing to take a lateral move to go under a coach who, let's be honest, Nick Nurse probably would have retained him, most likely.
Yeah.
And you rather go work at the same job under Joe Mazzulla? Now, I understand you may be going to, you're going to a better team, but what if Jaylen Brown's not there?
Right. I'm going to assume that he had a really good relationship with Doc. And that's maybe he's just a little upset about how that went down. And maybe that's why. I don't know. Yeah, it definitely is a lateral move. He does have a history with the Celtics organization. That was the last team he played for and won a championship with them in 2008. Maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. But the only thing with him is like people hold him in high regards when it comes to Tyrese Maxey's development. But I also believe Tyrese Maxey has developed enough now where I think anybody who gets a hold of him that has any sort of basketball IQ, he'll be just fine. I think Sam Cassell was with him at a time where he really needed something like that. I think those years of that was really important. But I also believe now, I think he'll be okay no matter who the assistants are.
Yeah, I also Nick Nurse is a kind of coach who will wear you out real quick.
Yes.
So he's a good fit in that regard because you're in win now mode.
Right.
I wouldn't hire him to do Brett Brown's job.
No, not at all. No, he couldn't. Listen, Brett Brown's a one-of-one. I think there's not many people that could have done Brett Brown's job.
Now, I'll give you my real true feelings about how the Sixers have been the last few years.
Yeah.
Culminating into Mother's Day.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll leave you with some optimism.
Oh, okay.
Okay. 3 phases that we have gone through for coaching through the process.
Mm-hmm.
You had the person who was basically the babysitter and the handler in Brett Brown, letting the kids grow. The daycare attendant. Yeah. That was Brett Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Doc Rivers is the kind of coach you bring in to set a culture. He is a culture builder, not an X's and O's tactician.
Yeah, fair.
And now you're bringing in your third coach of the new variety, the guy who is now here. He is supposed to be able to win now with the built product. So my optimistic hope is that this is the right coach for where this team is in the maturity of the roster. He is a win now coach, and you are in win now mode. So he is the best fit for what you want.
Yeah,
however,
I love that. Yeah.
That's not going to stop James Harden from taking a private flight to Vegas.
I'm glad you went in there because we're going to take a break, but on the other side of the break, we got to talk about James Harden a little bit.
Yeah, and
because we got to figure out what this means for him. And
I wouldn't for Embiid. Is he Nick Nurse is a we talk about Frank with Wentz. Frank Reich was on Carson Wentz, and who was the other one that was there with him at that time?
Mike. No, not Mike. Oh man,
It was Frank Reich, and there was somebody else.
quarterback's coach.
Yeah,
Why can't I think of his name now?
I think he then went to Minnesota, didn't he?
This is gonna drive me crazy. I can't think of his name.
You know who I'm talking about, though, right?
I know exactly who you're talking about. I want to say Mike. I don't know. I gotta.
All right, I'll explain to you the story while you're looking it up.
Okay.
So the two of them were notoriously hard on Carson, pounding the fundamentals into him, not letting him slip and slack and take the easy route. They were really tough on him. Nick Nurse is the same kind. But the difference is that Carson got that right into the league. He didn't have time to become the player that
John DeFilippo.
That was it, DeFilippo.
Yeah.
So, Carson in Indianapolis wasn't going to deal with DeFilippo and Frank Reich. Now I understand Frank Reich's the head coach, but that's different than him being the offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
The head coach doesn't have the same. I mean, now you're the starting quarterback. It's probably different with that, but the head coach doesn't run the practice. He installs the game plan, and the coordinators and the position coaches run the practice with the coach overseeing it to make sure it's going the way that he wants it.
Right.
So he's not getting as much hands-on one-on-one time with Carson as he would as the offensive coordinator, as DeFilippo would with the quarterback coach. Embiid hasn't had that from the beginning. Will he crumble? Will Nick Nurse be too overbearing and make Embiid crumble?
It seems to me. It seems. Well, let's take a break.
I'm less worried. I think the question is the same for Harden, but I'm less worried about Harden because he is clearly on the back end of his career and on the downside. Embiid just won the MVP, so that's why I pose the question more Embiid, but I really pose to both. But
let's take a break and then I'll answer that question and we'll talk about Harden and on the other side. But first, I want to tell you about our friends at HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredient and seasonable recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal pick. This summer, HelloFresh is here to take the work out of eating well. Reach your goals with delicious, calorie-smart, and protein-smart lunch and dinner options, plus new vegan recipes too. HelloFresh Market has new snacks, meals, and more to add to your weekly order with their fun s'mores bundle for the kids. Listen, I had HelloFresh delivered to my door, and the meals were incredible. I like to cook, but even if you don't like to cook, it's perfect for you because everything is right there, written out, all the instructions, all the ingredients, and really you're done in about half an hour, which is awesome. So please give our friends at HelloFresh a try. You can go to HelloFresh.com/Bremer16 and use code Bremer16 for 16 free meals plus free shipping. Again, go to HelloFresh.com/Bremer16 and use code Bremer16 for 16 free meals plus free shipping. It is highly encouraged that I'm telling you this, and listen carefully. HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. Also, check out our friends at Native. Listen, summer's just getting started. It's getting hot. We hit 90 degrees on Saturday, which was highly uncomfortable this early in the season. But it's time. It's sunscreen season, baby. And when you're soaking up the sun this time of year, but with all that time in the sun, you're always worried about protecting your skin. But with Native sunscreen, I can give the skin the protection it needs and soak up that much needed sun. Native's quick absorbing, ultra sheer, hydrating, and lightweight sunscreen formula offers broad spectrum SPF 30 protection from UVA and UVB rays. All Native sunscreen is made with 20% active zinc oxide formula that is dermatologist tested and suitable for sensitive skin. All Native sunscreen is made with oils derived from plants that seal in skin moisture and is vegan and cruelty-free. Choose from one of Native's 3 delicious but subtle scents like coconut and pineapple rosé, or sweet peach and nectar for your face and body, or try Native's unscented option. With all Native sunscreen, you get protection from the sun that is free of chemical actives, oxybenzone, oxytoxate, and ovibenzone, which makes native sunscreen compliant with the Hawaii Act 104, which was passed in an effort to protect Hawaii's reef. Give your skin the protection it deserves with Native's mineral sunscreens. Go to nativedeo.com/Bremy or use promo code Bremy at checkout to get 20% off of your first order. That's nativedeo.com/Bremy or use promo code Bremy at checkout. nativedeo.com/Bremy or use promo code Bremy.
I've had many people reach out to me over the last couple of weeks that say they ordered stuff from Native and got it, and it's the best product they've had.
Smells delightful.
I use it.
Smelling like a blueberry, a gummy bear.
I smell like a gummy bear all day.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's definitely good stuff.
Friend of the show, Twitty, ordered some after he heard us talking about it.
Oh yeah.
He's like, I didn't know I needed my armpits to smell like candy, but they do.
Yeah, I know. That's how I feel.
Like it really is the best. So.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff. So the Harden thing. Well, first I'm going to answer the me question. Embiid's an interesting guy in the sense that one thing that it seems that he does need and crave is to be coached hard.
Oh wow!
Like I feel like when it comes to him, he responds better when he is getting coached hard. So listen. It seems the Nick Nurse stuff that happened in Toronto, it seems like the voice that they kind of tuned him out a little bit. And because he had been there for a couple years, he's a guy, he's a grinder. He's a guy that gets on you. And if you keep doing that, eventually with the same people, it goes away. Like for me,
you bring in Nick Nurse for 3 years. That's how
I feel. So I'm a middle school basketball coach, which is nice that I don't have that problem because I have constant turnover. I have these kids for 2 years and they're gone. So I can be as hard as I want on them because I know that they'll never tune out on me. It'll never get old. It'll never ever. But these guys, 5 years, 7 years, 9 years are the same. You can't do that. So I think for 3 years, I think it'll be fine. I guess the Mike D'Antoni thing with Harden was like everyone saying, okay, they hire him, he's definitely coming back. I think this is going to say a lot about who James Harden is and what James Harden wants. Because, listen, if he decides to go to the Houston Rockets, he cannot then in turn around and say, I want to win. Because as Houston, with Ime Udoka, yeah, they're going to get better. They might be a play-in team next year. They may get a 60, probably not. They're not winning an NBA championship in the next 3 or 4 years. It's just not happening. So if you're saying I'm going down to Houston, you're strictly going for the money grab because it's comfortable to you. So the idea of your chance to get a championship,
if that's what you want to do,
with the idea, but he's been saying for
he wants the check,
he wants the championship. Yeah. So if that's what you want, the best thing for you to do is re-sign here. Yeah. Now I'm not comfortable. I do not want them to give him a max. We talked about this. We don't want that to happen. I would be comfortable bringing Harden back on like a 2-year deal.
And I don't think he will get the max. I think Morey realizes he can't give him the max.
Yeah,
and that may be Josh Harris saying to him, if you want to keep your job, right, you're not giving him the max.
Right. A 2-year deal I'd be comfortable with. I think that you're kind of looking at the Sixers salary cap situation. You're between a rock and a hard place because if Harden just walks, that's not ideal because you're not gaining money from that. You pretty much will have a mid-level exception, and that's it to sign someone to bring in someone here. So if Harden does leave, you hope to do a sign and trade. Maybe do like a 3-team deal or something. There's been talks of maybe replacing James Harden with Fred VanVleet, who has the experience playing with Nick Nurse.
Well, can I ask you a question about that real quick? The Fred VanVleet. Mm-hmm. Can you have both?
VanVleet and Harden?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, here's
I guess my question is, can they play side by side? Or no?
Where's Maxey going? Because I think you can't put Maxey back on the bench. That didn't work. I think he's earned the right to be a starter.
All right,
so you can't start Harden.
In that case, then VanVleet comes off the bench.
Listen, I'm here for it. The
No,
cap
no. I
NBA
guess I'm asking, like, is that like, would that fit on the floor?
Van Vliet came off the bench before, and he'd be an excellent bench plate for you. I just don't know
If
if at
he
this
would
point,
take that.
if he wants to, because he's worked his way to be a starter also. So I don't know if that's something.
Oh, yeah, I understand it would require him to take a back seat.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
But honestly, but he's I don't see a huge difference between Van Vliet and Harden, if I'm being honest. Like, I don't like
Different
at
type of players.
at this point in time in Harden's career, he's not head and shoulders above Van Vliet anymore.
Completely different type of players. Like what Harden does and what Van Vliet does are so different. Van Vliet is more of a spot up jump shooter where he'll it'll be good when Embiid's down a coach. He can float to a corner and hits a couple threes for you. Much better defender than Harden in the sense that I'll say this: a much more willing defender than James Harden for the most part. Like
Isn't he small though?
He is small.
Yeah.
A very I think the basketball IQ I think is about the same. I think they both are high IQ players. I guess I would like to see James Harden out of the Doc Rivers system and see what that looks like. See like how he operates in that thing. Because listen, take away Game 7. Harden had a really good season. Like he gives you 21 and 10. He deferred to Embiid a lot. So he averaged 10 assists. He had a pretty good playoff up until Game 7. You know, he had the bad game 2 and game 7, Game 2, Game 6, and Game 7, but pretty good playoff for the most part. Wins you 2 games.
The problem is that he was brought. His lows are too low. That's the problem. Like, I understand that he came in, he won you Game 1 and Game
4.
Was it Game 4? Okay, so Game 4.
And played really well in Game 5.
But his lows are so low. Like, you can't go from scoring 42 to 7.
I'll play devil's advocate with you though. This is what I think is coming from his.
I don't think Harden can, like, he should not be allowed to get less than like 12 to 15 points a game. Like, that's like,
yeah, I'll play devil's advocate with that. This is what I think is coming from his camp and his argument is that he was basically told you are to defer to Joe. So the whole premise of everything is to get Joe the ball in Joe's spots. And that's pretty much what this is. And if it may at some point get in his head of, okay, I got to get Joe the ball. Got to make sure you get the spots. Got to make the spots. That's what Doc wanted. That's how Joe averaged 33 a game. Because the offense was built around Joel Embiid.
But when he's not cutting it, you gotta be able to let it loose.
Yeah, I agree with that premise. But I guess if your coach is hammering your ear, get the ball to Joe. This is our offense. No, I don't want you doing the whole dribble, do your thing. No, we don't want that. Like, I guess maybe that's the thing. I don't know.
The way that they lost Game 7, I would have preferred for them to go out with James Harden just trying to make it rain.
I agree.
That's what I would have preferred. Just James, if you take 23s, I trust your percentage.
Yeah.
That it will work out for us.
But but here's the thing I'll say too, I think is important about this, is that as a guy who played a lot of basketball, it's very hard to be in an offense where it's my turn, your turn. That doesn't work. You look at what happened to Phoenix. Phoenix had that offense with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. It doesn't work because you're asking me to just be ready. Like, you're not asking me to be in a flow. You're asking me to just be ready when you're done. It doesn't work. And I think this offense was a lot more my turn, your turn. And it's with Maxey too. Like, Maxey never really knew when it was going to be his turn. He just had to be ready when it was. That's a little unfair to ask someone to do that. And it doesn't go with the flow of basketball. That's why the Denver Nuggets are so good. That's why the Miami Heat are so good. Because they don't play my turn, your turn, my turn, your turn. It's we're going to move the ball around and get the best available shot. The end. And that's how basketball is supposed to work. It's supposed to be a free-flowing, we take the best shot available from whoever it is. Like, that's where basketball is at its best. Like, it can't be, Okay, I had 4 shots. Now you take 2 shots. I had 3 shots. Now you take 3 shots. But that's kind of what the Sixers offense looks like, and that's not good basketball. It's just not good basketball. So I think Nick Nurse is going to get more into a more of a flow and get away from the my turn, your turn, and let's just get the best shots, and who's cooking is who cooking. That's what you need, in my opinion.
Well, what we need is them to buy in. That's what we need. But the thing is, he has something that neither one of them have.
Yep.
Championship.
Exactly.
And he went through Embiid to get his.
Yep. He had a meeting. Listen, he met with Joe. Apparently it went well. He's supposed to be one-on-one with Harden also. I think Harden's concerns are definitely going to be about the offense, because I think looking back, he hated Doc Rivers' offense. And he just was a good soldier and said, all right, I guess we'll give it a shot. And then it's really hard to argue when you're winning. Like, even if something you don't like something, all right, we're winning. I can't really say anything. But after what happened in Game 7, after the breakdown of Game 6, after all that stuff, I think it was just a lot easier for him to, listen. The last, what did he say when he was asked about Doc Rivers? We're okay. And you knew right then and there he was not a fan of Doc Rivers coming back. That was a glowing endorsement for him being fired. Which I think he definitely had a hand at getting Doc fired. Which we've talked about before. My feelings that, so I won't go back into that. But it'll be interesting to see. But I guess another thing about people who think he's definitely going to Houston, I'll ask you this question: if he's definitely going to Houston, why would he care if Doc Rivers is still the coach here? Like, what does it matter if he's still the coach here? Like, why wouldn't you just say, yeah, I love Doc, he's a great guy, he did a great job this year, blah, blah, blah. If you really are definitely going to Houston. I don't think he's definitely going to Houston. I don't think that's the thing. I think that maybe it's on the table, maybe he's thinking about it, but I definitely think the Sixers still have a shot at retaining him. It just has to be the right number.
I also don't think that Harden is necessarily the most savvy person when speaking to the media either.
Yeah, it's fair.
I mean, there's an interview from a couple years ago where he admits, like, while doing the interview, that he's in the studio all night long and then goes to practice without going to bed.
Yeah.
So, like,
not ideal.
So I think that sometimes he's just like, I don't know about you. Sometimes I'm just talking. Like, people are asking me, and I like my head's somewhere else, and I'm just talking, and I'm just saying things, and then when you bring me back into the moment and you say, hey, you said this, I sit there and I say, there's no way that I would have said that. But I'm just sitting there, I'm just talking.
You're freestyling.
So I feel like he does that a lot.
Yeah.
But in the NBA, more so than any other league, when there's smoke, there's usually fire.
Agreed.
And I feel like there's too much smoke with Harden going to Houston to where you can't at least say that it's a 50-50 chance.
Yeah, I agree. I think there definitely is smoke there. I think he's definitely on the table. I'm just not with people that he's definitely going to Houston. I would say
there's a chance it's Houston or the Sixers. I
agree.
It's one or the other.
I agree.
I don't think either one of them necessarily has a lead over the other.
Yeah.
I think some days he wakes up and says, I'd rather be in Houston. Yeah. And some days he wakes up and say, I'd rather be in Philly.
Right.
I think it's going to depend how the rest of the offseason and I guess the Nick Nursing coaching staff build out goes.
Yeah.
The draft already happened? Not yet. A couple weeks,
nope.
Right?
After early July, late June, early July.
A couple weeks.
Yeah.
So I think maybe like after, because Harden is he's in no rush to sign the contract.
Right.
He like if he says I want to come back, the Sixers will sign him.
Right.
If he says I want to come to Houston, they will sign him.
Right.
So he's in no rush. He can sit back and wait and see.
Yeah.
What will be interesting, I think, is let me rephrase that. I think the longer that passes, the more likely it is he comes back.
Yeah.
Because he's waiting to see developments. I want to come there. I want to see what they're doing.
And also, too, it's like Ime Udoka, like, I don't believe James Harden is his type of player. Like, I don't think that's what he like. Like, I very like the whole idea of Ime Udoka trying to trade for Jaylen Brown makes a lot of sense. Obviously, he has history with them, and I think he really likes Jaylen Brown. But James Harden in that with Ime Udoka, I don't think that, because Ime Udoka is another guy that he gets on you, he gets after, he wants to play intense, serious defense. Like he's a grinder. I don't know that James Harden. I don't know if that makes sense. And if you're going to go with one of the two, if you got the same similar coach, wouldn't you just go with a team that has a better chance of winning? I don't know.
Unless he really cares about just being in Houston that much.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I guess we'll say. But real quick on the Phils before we get out of here.
Well, one more thing. I think that it depends how fast he signs will depend what he wants to do. If you see him sign real fast in Houston,
yeah.
And I think it's telling that Houston hasn't come out and denied that they would want him back.
Right.
Because he's already opted out of his he's exercised his player option to opt out, right?
Yeah. Yes. He hasn't done it yet, but it's he's
they said he's going to.
I don't think he's allowed to yet because the league year hasn't ended yet because the NBA finals are going. But I think his plans are to opt out.
Like, if he wants to go to, like, when LeBron went to LA, did you see LeBron going there as setting up a dynasty for the Lakers, or he was going there to set up his post-basketball life?
Post-basketball life. I didn't, honestly, I was surprised he signed there, but after thinking about it, it made sense.
He set up his post-basketball life.
Right.
If Harden goes to Houston, it's the same thing. Yeah. He's setting up his post-basketball life.
Yeah.
Because as soon as he retires, where he's going to live.
Right.
Houston.
Right. Real quick on the Phillies before we get out of here. I'm just going to say this. This team is too talented for this to be who this team is. Obviously it's the 2 out of 3 was much needed in Washington. That needed to happen. You got Detroit right now coming in here, which should be a sweep because you really need to sweep. It's just no way to me this team, this talented, is playing this poorly. You gotta hope and gotta think that they're gonna turn it around, and maybe it started this weekend. I don't know. I'm trying to be patient, but it really sucks because I really was hoping for a nice summer with the Phillies and a nice, easy, relaxing summer, fun baseball. Like watching them, like they're back to being a bad watch. Like they're a hard team to watch. Like just stupid things. They lead the league and get thrown out on the bases. Like
they play stupid baseball.
Yeah, bad at bats, bad fielding air. Like it's just really bad.
I just call it what it is, Marcus. They play stupid.
Yeah, I agree. They do make a lot of stupid mistakes. I'm just hoping that they're going to turn it around because I don't want to go back to waiting for training camp. I don't want to do that. Like I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I want a summer. I want a summer. So I'm gonna assume and I'm like until further notice, till we get the All-Star break, I'm just gonna assume this is gonna get turned around. I have no choice but to for right now. They're too talented. They're just too talented. It's too many great players on this team. That lineup is too good for them to not figure it out. I gotta think Trey Turner's gonna get hot at some point. Nick Castellanos is gonna be an All-Star this year. He's playing.
If I gave you truth serum, and everything you know now, then do you still sign Trey Turner to the deal?
Yes. Yeah. He got. This is weird. I don't know what's going on with him. It's just weird. Like this is abnormal. He's not some old man. He's 29 years old. So like, it wasn't some veteran they gave a bad deal to. Like this is a guy in the prime of his career who's one of the top 15 players in baseball.
But the thing is, I'm wondering is he this bad? No, he didn't. He didn't just fall off a cliff. But he's 29, going to be 30. Was his best years like 26, 27, 28?
No.
Fair question. It's a fair question.
Here's why I say no, because you saw what he did in the World Baseball Classic.
Well, yeah, and that's what pisses me off about the whole operation.
It's in there. Like it's
That's
not
the-
like that was
And that's the thing that drives me the craziest.
3 months ago. And he also had a good spring. Like he hit well in spring too when he was here. So like no, I don't believe he just fell off a cliff and like all of a sudden I just think he's going through some weird bad slump. And that's why for me I look at this and say there's no way this team will not make the playoffs. I mean, you have the luxury of having 6 spots. So like, even the wild card, I think they're back, like 3 back in the last spot. You're okay. But like obviously you got to get high.
The thing is, we're taking water on quickly though.
Yeah, no,
Like,
agreed.
The ship is sinking quickly.
Agreed, especially for the fact you're playing some pretty good teams after Detroit.
And you're getting nothing from your pitchers.
Yeah.
Nothing. Your starting pitching sucks. Now,
Really got destroyed Friday night.
some of that, like, did Andrew Painter's injury affect you a little bit? Of
Yeah.
course it did. But you weren't going to rely on a 19-year-old rookie on a pitch limit,
Right.
an innings limit
Right.
to save your season.
Right.
You can't win the pennant in the third quarter of the season, but you sure can lose it.
Right.
I mean, Oakland is 27, 28 games out
Yeah.
of the division already.
Yeah.
You're not going to win your division.
Right.
That will go to Atlanta. The Mets are going to get a wild card spot.
Yeah.
The Dodgers will win the division out west.
Padres get a spot, probably.
And what's that?
Padres get a spot probably. You got to look out for the Diamondbacks now.
Well, I was going to say the Diamondbacks or the Padres. One of the two of those teams will get a
maybe
spot.
even the Pirates. Pirates playing good baseball also.
Well, the thing is that division though is up for grabs. So I like that. You don't know who's going to win. There's only going to be one team coming out of the Central.
Yeah.
There won't be a second. There won't be a wild card team coming out of the Central. It's either going to be Phillies, Mets. It's going to be a trio combination of Padres, D-backs, Mets, Phillies. 3 of those 4 teams will get the wild card.
Yeah.
Just you don't want to be the one stuck playing musical chairs and there's not a chair sitting there for you.
Right.
Which is where you're trending now. But it's too early for you to trade for a pitcher. You're going to get raked over the coals and charged a fortune.
I mean, I'll tell you too. I'll tell you one thing. We talked about this when it happened. Is they really miss Rhys Hoskins' bat. They really miss him in that lineup.
A lot more than I thought they would.
First of all, you took out 30 home runs and 90 RBIs out of your lineup. But also, Rhys he sees pitches. Like he works pitchers. And they don't have a lot of guys in the lineup that do that well. So
I feel like Trey Turner's always 0-2.
Say again?
I feel like Trey Turner's always 0-2. Every time I look up, he's 0-2.
Right. Well, listen, again, this is a big series with Detroit this week because then you got the Dodgers after them, and you got the Diamondbacks after that. So this is a huge get right series.
Yeah,
you got to sweep them. Just sweep them out of here.
They're not
Send
good.
Dylan and Nick Maton home with the rings and sweep them out of here. That's how it has to go down.
Yeah, you're facing tonight Joey Wentz.
Yep. Against Aaron Nola, who's been really bad this year. Hopefully he can turn around.
I mean, if you're his agent, what are you thinking right now?
Bro, do you want a big contract or no? Because right now it's not looking good for you, sir. It's not looking good for you all, sir.
Like, if he say he has a inconsistent season all year long, would you want to resign him or no? Or let me rephrase.
I'm ready.
Is there a price that you want to resign him, or no?
No. He has. You know who his comp is to me is Tobias Harris.
Yeah,
a guy that he frustrates you because you see how good he can be, but 9 times out of 10 is just going to be disappointment and sadness.
I agree.
Yeah, that's basically it for me.
Oh, I got a question for you.
Okay.
So, we've talked about urinal etiquette on the show before.
We have.
We are not just opinionated on sports. We're opinionated about everything that happens.
We're advocates for proper urinal conduct. So
this is one night last week. I don't know, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever night I'm at the gym.
Okay.
And I walk in, and before I started working, I was like, let me just run to the bathroom real quick because so I don't have to like stop in the middle. Might as well just go now. So I walk in, and there's a guy in front of me, like we're clearly both going to go use the bathroom. No, now they have 3 urinals in a row. Okay.
Okay.
No one's in the bathroom besides us. What do you think he should do?
One more time. You're at the urinal.
No. So we're both walking into the bathroom.
Okay.
He's directly in front of me.
Okay.
I'm behind him. No one else is in the bathroom.
Okay.
There's 3 urinals. What should he do? He's in front of me. Remember, he's standing in front of me. He's walking in front of me.
You go to the far one, left or right, so there can be a separator in between both of you.
My man took the middle.
No!
And he knew I was behind him.
That's unacceptable.
He walked in and
If
took the
there's
middle.
no one there, it's like playing tic-tac-toe. You always pick a corner. You go to the corner. You got to go to left or right, far left, far right, so we have the divider. Now, if someone comes in afterwards and goes to the middle, so be it. Here we are all together.
Now,
But
here's the
also,
thing,
too,
there are dividers in between the urinals.
love the addition of dividers, but it's still wrong.
Yeah.
We're still way too close. We don't need to be. I'll tell you what I would do is, honestly, if there's no one in the bathroom, you got a stall there, 3 urinals, I see you behind me, I just go to the stall. Here, you take the urinals. I can do this in the stall.
Well, so that's what I did. I peeled off and went into the stall.
As you should.
I feel like I was gypped out of my urinal spot.
You definitely were. That's not okay. You can't do that. You never choose the middle unless the middle is a I have to do this.
Yes.
Not I want to.
No, he knew I was behind him and consciously took the middle.
I mean, the only thing worse than that is the person who's trying to strike up a conversation at the urinal. That's a no talking zone. We don't talk at the urinal. Eyes forward. Do your business. When you're washing your hands, you have something you want to say, you say it to me washing your hands.
So you know what place had the worst bathroom that you had to deal with public interactions?
What's that?
Mad River in Manayunk.
Really?
Oh, yeah. There was no door on the men's room, so you could see right in when you walked by.
Oh God.
It was a trough.
Oh, I hate trough.
And the stall door had no door on it. So if you didn't want to have to do that, if you didn't
that's just bad. That's bad. That's bad.
Yeah, oh yeah, Mad River in Manayunk. R.I.P. They're closed now. I had been there many a times, but that was
the one old city. I never was at the one in Manayunk.
Yeah, no, Mad River in Manayunk. It was right at the bottom of the hill there.
Yeah, I know the spot. When I was outside, it was Grape Street Pub. That's what it was before it became.
Oh yeah, now it's just nothing.
Yeah.
But it that was the worst, absolute worst bathroom to be around when you had to be near other people. I also just want to ask you a simple yes or no side question.
Okay.
So if someone misspelled their own title in their LinkedIn bio, would you take them serious? Like hypothetically, you go to my LinkedIn, you see on my page, it has I don't know if you have a LinkedIn or not, but this is so how it works. So you go to a LinkedIn, it has like your job title and where you work and all that. If someone misspelt their own job title on their own LinkedIn account, would you take them seriously?
I mean, no, because it's lack of attention to detail. You got to double and triple check that stuff. It's like your IG post. You double and triple check that. You on Twitter, if I post something, I see I misspelled something, I'll delete it and do it again.
It depends how I will do the same. Depends how egregious it is, though.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like if it's just like a simple, like if you can clearly tell what I was doing, that's fine. But LinkedIn's different because that's like you're holding that to a certain professional standard. You need to be polished on that.
Right.
If you see me tweeting at 3:18 a.m., you don't expect
you don't expect the debating thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. That's fair. All right. I'm Mark tweeting everywhere.
At Justin Emery Show on the Bluebird app.
Brad Emery Pod everywhere. BradEmery.com for the merch. Check out our friends at HelloFresh and Native, and please use our codes.
Yes.
Until next time, you'll be with us. You'll be against us. You're never going to stop us. Late.